Welcome to Frontline Conversations. The Election Commission's special intensive revision of the electoral roll in poll-bound Bihar has created a huge furor. Fears have been expressed that it could result in exclusion of a large number of voters, especially the poor and the marginalized, because they do not have the documents that the Election Commission is seeking as proof of their eligibility as voters. Also, the timing of the exercise has been questioned, coming as it does so close to the assembly elections. And there is also the criticism that the exercise is effectively a citizenship verification drive. The SIR has been challenged in the Supreme Court, and the Association for Democratic Reforms is the lead petitioner. We have with us Professor Jagdeep Chhokar, founding member and trustee of ADR, to talk about the various issues arising out of the SIR in Bihar. Thank you so much, Professor Chhokar, for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sir, I would start off with what happened in the Supreme Court in the first hearing on the petition which was filed against the SIR. According to you, what are the main takeaways from the Supreme Court's hearing? The court has made certain important observations and has raised some very pertinent questions about the exercise. So, how do you look at that?
Well, the hearing was actually very, very interesting and absorbing. It went on for 3 or 4 hours. During the discussions, which meant that when the petitioner's lawyers made their case and subsequently the election commissioner's lawyer presented his case, the kind of questions that the bench was asking were very, very insightful, very engaging, and very probing. And the impression that one got during the hearing was that the bench fully appreciated the petitions and the concerns of the petitioners, and they wanted to explore with the election commission in great detail as to how can this exercise be made more citizen or voter friendly. The bench made very significant observations in the sense that it actually said, and I think it said it more than once, that it is not the job of the election commission to check the citizenship status of people. That is the job of the Home Ministry. So this got clarified beyond any doubt to my knowledge. But when the order came in the end, it was a bit of a come down. Of course, the order did say that it was a very important issue. It has serious implications for democracy. It needs a hearing, and therefore the petitions were admitted. That was the first positive, that the petitions were admitted, they were not dismissed. Then the bench went on to say that there are 3 significant issues, and then it made an observation that it will be in the interest of justice if the election commission were to consider 3 additional documents, one being the Aadhaar card, the other the voter ID card or the EPIC card, and third the ration card. And then it said that we'll fix a hearing on July 28. The Election Commission's lawyer first wanted the hearing to be held on the 2nd of August, because he said on the 1st of August the draft electoral roll would have been published, and therefore on the 2nd the court will know how many people have actually been left out of the draft electoral roll and how many people are there. But the court said, no, we would like to hold this hearing before you put out the draft electoral roll so that we understand the process better. And they insisted on doing it on the 28th of July. Then the election commissioner's lawyer said, you have said that election commission should consider these 3 documents, and that leaves us no choice. So you kindly include in the order that the election commission will have the discretion to use these documents or not. The court said, no, we have said consider, you consider, If you include, you include. If you don't want to include, then you will have to record reasons. This is not in the order, this was oral. So that is where the matter rests. Now, I think you said, how do I look at it? I look at it as it could have been better and it could have been worse. It could have been better if the Election Commission had stayed the entire process. A kind of a suggestion to that in that respect was made by Justice Bagchi when he said to the Election Commission's lawyer that why don't you de-link this intensive revision from the forthcoming election and keep doing this revision without the pressure of time, and take your time, do it properly, and hold the forthcoming Bihar State Assembly election on the basis of the January 2005 summary revision that you had done. But the Election Commission lawyer didn't agree to that. So there was it could have been better had they said so in the order. And it could have been worse. Our petitions could have been dismissed. So the door is still open, and now we will see what happens in the next few days before the 28th of July. By 25th, the deadline for submitting documents will be over. Although that deadline is also not very clear, because when the Bihar Chief Electoral Officer put an advertisement in the paper saying you don't have to submit any documents, 1 or 2 days later, the Election Commission of India put out a press release saying that documents can be given by July 25, or they can be given during the claims and objections period, which is 1 month. So whether the deadline is 24th of July, 25th of July, or it is the end of the claims and objections period, which is, I think, the 31st of August. So there is not clarity about this, but the fact is we will see what happens between now and 28th, and then we will respond to it the way the situation at that time demands. So it's an ongoing struggle, and we shall see how to respond as the events take place.
The court did not stay the SIR, and there is so much confusion with regard to what documents are allowed, what are not allowed. We are seeing reports to that effect in the media. And the commission has also been coming up with clarifications almost on a daily basis with regard to the exercise. So do you think that delinking this exercise with the elections would be the ideal situation in the given circumstances?
Well, I think the ideal situation would be that this exercise be stopped and elections held without the tension of this exercise with the 2025 January summary electoral roll. And then the exercise be taken up after the elections are over. That would be the ideal. Because if this is going on and election is being held, I think it will be very messy. But when you say that delinking, even if the exercise goes on along with the election, delinking would be certainly better than what the situation is now. But the ideal would be that this be stopped. It can be done, doing this intensive electoral roll revision or special intensive revision is perfectly all right. It is a legitimate activity, except that the Election Commission ought not be going into the issues of citizenship, because it is there in several judgments of the Supreme Court, notably Lal Babu Hussain of 1995, that once a person's name is on the electoral roll, there is a presumption of citizenship. And that presumption cannot and should not be tested or challenged by the Election Commission. It can be done, and I'll come to that. But and the Election Commission is fully aware of this. And there is proof of this because in that June 24th notification, they have written that for those people who are on the electoral rolls on January 1, 2003, there is a presumption of citizenship. So they know that there is a presumption of citizenship, but they have chosen to not apply that presumption to voters who were registered after 1/1/23. So there is, which effectively means that they have deleted the names of everybody who came onto the electoral roll from January 2, 2003 till June 23, 2025. Now, removal of the name of a registered elector is not a simple thing. It cannot be done with the stroke of a pen. There's a laid down procedure. Election Commission has to give that notice, give a notice to the person whose name Election Commission wants to delete. And the notice is a show cause notice. It says, show cause why your name should not be deleted from the electoral roll. And if the rules even go to the extent of saying that if the notice cannot be delivered to a person, it should be pasted on the door of his house or her house. And then this person is to be given an opportunity for a personal hearing. And when this person, if the person doesn't show up at the election commission even after the notice being pasted on his or her door, then obviously their name can be deleted. But if a person comes there, the onus of proving that the person is not a citizen is on the election commission. It is very clear that, let us say, I complain that my neighbor is not authorized to be on the electoral roll because he or she is not a citizen. Then election commission will give them a notice, and it will be the onus of proving that this person is not a citizen should be mine, not of that person's. So now what they have done is that they have effectively removed the names of all these people, and now the onus is on these people to prove that they are citizens. So shifting the onus from the election commission to the citizen is a very significant matter. And this is, well, I think I've got distracted. Let me come back. So doing this exercise is a good thing, provided they don't go into the citizenship affair. And therefore, they should do it everywhere, but they should not do it under the pressure of an election forthcoming in 2 months. They should hold the election in peace on the January 2005 electoral roll, and then conduct this exercise later whenever they want. And it may take 3 months. It will not take 3 months. It may take 6 months, 1 year, 9 months. Or earlier reports were that the 2003 intensive revision took 2 years. Subsequently, the Election Commission started saying it took 31 days. And I think there was a report in the Scroll yesterday by Ayush something, who has said that he has been looking for the 2003 instructions and the Election Commission has not been able to find them. And he has been able to get instructions for 2004 when the intensive revisions were conducted in Assam, in Northeast, and in J&K. And there is no such check on citizenship at that time. So there is a problem. But what you are saying, delinking could be a solution, yes, but not the ideal solution.
Now, on the issue of citizenship, the Election Commission cites Article 326 of the Constitution and Section 16 of the RPA to defend the SIR and the way it is being conducted, saying only Indian citizens and those who are ordinarily a resident of the constituency can be there in the voter list. And he also talked about shifting the onus of proving that an individual is a citizen is now on the voter and not on the Election Commission. So is the Election Commission empowered to make this change in the way the revision of the electoral roll is taking place? Is this backed by law, the shifting of the onus on the voter?
Well, according to the observation made by the two judges in the Supreme Court yesterday. To say that only Indian citizens can be voters is perfectly correct. But at the same time, Article 324, 326 and Article 16 of the RPA, they don't stand in isolation. There are several other laws and things in the country. And there are citizenship laws. There is the Citizenship Act, which authorizes the Ministry of Home Affairs to do this job. So in the early stages of the RTI, the Central Information Commission had started asking people to give proof of citizenship along with RTI applications, because it says that any citizen of India can ask this information. So then people went to court and it was clarified that citizens of India can ask for this information, but the CIC does not have to check the citizenship of every Indian. So just because only Indian citizens can be voters does not empower the Election Commission of India to check citizenship status at any time it wants. It can do that at the time of registration of fresh voters. And there is Form 6, which is still available. And the Form 6 requires a self-declaration. It says that I hereby certify that I was born in so-and-so place and I am a citizen of India. Now, if Election Commission has a doubt based on some information that it has in its possession or it gets hold of, then it can challenge that person. So just because only citizens can be voters does not give this unfettered right to the Election Commission to, at random, on its own sweet will, ask Sony Mishra one day, tell me if you are a citizen or not, prove your citizenship unless we remove your name. No, it has to record reasons for asking you that. Citizenship is a given for a lot of things. That doesn't mean everyone has a right to check your citizenship. A policeman on the street cannot stop you and say, are you a citizen? Prove that to me. Election Commission is not a policeman. It is a much bigger body and much stronger authority. But there is a system in place in which if a person is already on the electoral roll, citizenship is presumed. And it was very amply made clear in the court yesterday, Election Commission cannot and should not challenge that. Unless it has specific information, then it has to be done individually. I am repeating myself.
The court has suggested that Aadhaar, EPIC, and ration card be considered as valid documents as part of the SIR. I want to first ask you about the exclusion of these documents from the list of the documents that a voter could provide to prove his or her eligibility in the first place, the exclusion of these documents. And if these documents were to be included in the exercise, going by the court's suggestion, how would that change the nature of the exercise? Would that resolve a lot of the problems that we are witnessing on the ground?
Well, first of all, why were these three documents excluded? This only Election Commission can tell. I don't know why they were excluded. It is quite surprising that Aadhaar was excluded, because in earlier time, even Election Commission has said that Aadhaar can be used as a proof of identity and a proof of place of residence. And in revisions of electoral rolls, this is all Election Commission needs to check: identity and place of residence. And Aadhaar provides that perfectly well. And then somebody pointed it out to me, I did not know that out of those 11 documents that the Election Commission has specified, several of them need an Aadhaar card to be shown before you can get those documents. So to put it in linguistically confusing terms, Aadhaar is the Aadhaar for getting those documents. So the basic document was not acceptable. but documents you get on the basis of that were acceptable. This was quite anomalous. On the other hand, I think if these three documents are included, then there are a lot of apprehension and fear that prevails in the minds of a lot of voters will be assuaged. But it will not solve one more problem, which is a very serious problem, which was not discussed at length in the court yesterday. It is the situation of the migrants who have migrated out of Bihar and are working as agricultural labor in Punjab and Haryana, where families migrate to work on the farm and people individually migrate to various urban centers to work on construction sites and so on. Now, those people, the proportion of whom may vary anywhere between 20 to 50%. I don't have the numbers, and the numbers or estimates given by different people vary. They will not be able to even use this facility because they will not be able to either be physically present in Bihar to sign the enrollment form and to submit it, not enrollment, enumeration form.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the option given for people who are not physically present is that they should download the enumeration form from the Election Commission website, fill it up and upload it. Now, I find it very difficult to accept that a migrant worker who is working as an unskilled labor on a construction site in Mumbai or Calcutta or Bangalore, etc., will be able to go to a cyber cafe, download a form, fill it up, and then upload it. I think a lot of those people will not be able to do it. And therefore, technically speaking, their names will not figure in the draft electoral roll. And since they are involved in their struggle for existence, for roti, kapda, or makan, wherever they will not even be able to see the draft electoral roll. And hence they will not complain. And therefore their names will not be in the final electoral roll. So those people, I think, will be disenfranchised. And that number could be, as I said, anywhere from, and this would apply to some people in the villages of Bihar. Now, every villager in Bihar is not sitting at home waiting for the BLO to come up and give him the form or give her the form and then
Internal
collect the
migrants
form.
also.
No, people are even their own, they may not migrate, but even their own villages, they are working somewhere, they are working in the field, they are working in somebody's house, they are doing, people are not totally, they don't just sit at home the whole day.
And this is the sowing season in Bihar.
Yeah. Sowing season, flooding season.
Correct.
Yeah. So even a lot of people in Bihar will, and they will also not be able to download and upload. I mean, there is no electricity to charge people's cell phones. How will they do all this? So I think a significant proportion of the population of Bihar will be deprived of this, and they will end up being disenfranchised. This is my apprehension, even with these three documents.
On the question of migrant workers, the Election Commission said that a person has to be ordinarily a resident of that particular constituency to be able to find, place in the voter list over there. How do you look at that argument?
Well, let me suggest a scenario, and you please tell me whether it is practical or not. A migrant worker in Bombay who is an unskilled labor for construction. Now, a building is coming up, a 25-storied building is coming up. Where do these workers who work on the site live? My understanding is that to begin with, they set up a little juggi jopdi kind of thing where they live. Once the building starts coming up, they live in the building. I have seen in Delhi, in one part of the building, the families are living and the rest is being constructed. Now, these people live there as long as the building is under construction. Once the building is complete, they move to another building. Now, what address will they give? I mean, somebody can be in a metropolitan city for 10 years, living in different places wherever the work takes them. Now, can they register their vote in that city? I mean, theoretically it sounds very good. Let us take the case of even educated and, well-to-do people. I was being interviewed by somebody for a podcast, and this person said that I am a formal migrant and I've been in the city for 10 years, but every 2 years my landlord asked me to vacate and I moved to a different address. So will that person, and he himself said that, will I change my voter registration every 2 years? And of course, he sarcastically added, don't I have anything better to do? So that provision is okay for a certain set of stable conditions. It is not, a lot of people are not that stable for a variety of reasons. And that stipulation, which I've been hearing for years, it is not new. Because I worked on migrants for 20 years. There's an organization in Udaipur called Ajivika Bureau, which works on migrants. And I have been involved with them from day one. So I understand. And a few years ago, there was this move or a proposal to give NRIs voting rights. And at that time, I had written in several publications that we are worried about the NRIs. What about our own migrant resident Indians, MRIs? What happens to their votes? We don't worry about them. Although they are much larger in number than NRIs, and we don't worry about them because they are not rich, they are not influential, and they are not an organized voting bloc. So the argument that the Election Commission is giving now is very old, and the rebuttal is also very old. But the rebuttal is not remembered. Only that stipulation is mentioned every time this issue comes up.
So many apprehensions have been expressed about the exercise, but the Election Commission claims that the exercise is going on smoothly on the ground. It says over 98% of the enumeration forms have been distributed and 66% of the voters have submitted their forms, and these figures are as on June 10. So how do you look at these statistics?
I look at it as there's an expression called khayali pulao. Election Commission will put out a press note on 26th of July saying 99.9% of the enumeration forms have been collected, or 7.92 crore forms have been collected, and the exercise has been a huge success. But if the forms are not properly filled and are not accompanied by regular documents, then the proof will be known when the draft electoral roll comes out. And 90% or 99% of the forms have been distributed. To whom? To everybody who's on the electoral roll. How have forms gone to migrants in Punjab, Bihar, and metropolitan cities? They have been given to, there are video reports that I see. There's a reporter on, I think, News 24 called Rajiv Ranjan. I have seen some of his reports. The BLO goes and leaves 200 forms with somebody in the village and he says, "Inko baanto." And then he says, "Acha, I'll come tomorrow to collect them." And several BLOs have said, "We don't know what to do." Lady said that I am in Bihar reporting on this. What I see in Patna and what I hear from Delhi and Patna is something different. But what I find on the ground in villages is something different. She said forms are being given and are being collected even without signatures. So what is the point in collecting such forms and then issuing huge figures? We will see what happens finally, and ultimately the final test will be on the date of voting. I mean, as I said, a large number of migrants will not be able to check the draft electoral roll or the final electoral roll. They will just land up in their villages a day before voting. Whether they come because, a political party gives them a return railway ticket or gives them a chartered bus to go to their village and vote, which happens. Then, when they find on the date of voting that their vote is not there, I mean, just imagine a village of 500 voters who have been voting for the last 10, 15, 20 years in every election. And on the day of voting, out of this 500, 250 or 300 have their votes, and the remaining 200 or 250 do not have their votes. I think it can turn very risky at that point in time, because polling booth staff will be, 5, 8, 10 people. There'll be 5, 8, 10 policemen giving them security. These 18, 20 people, if they are faced with the anger of 200 people, it might be difficult. Because, this happens, people go to the booth and they don't find their vote registered and they come back very angry. And they kind of swallow their anger because they're just 1, 2, 10, 15, 20 of them. I have seen it in my own booth. And people curse the election commission, curse the government, but then they go back home. But when it happens to 200 people, it is not going to be that. It might be something different. And then, if this happens in 1 or 2 villages, that can be managed or suppressed, as there was a village in Maharashtra called Makarbadi, where they wanted to hold their own poll, and the police swooped in and stopped that from happening. So if this problem in Bihar happens in 1 or 2 villages, it will be managed. But God forbid it happens in 100 villages. What will we do? So all those statements that the ECI is putting out now, and it will put out on 26th of July, you can't show those statements to the 200 people whose vote has been, who have been deprived of their vote. And the Indian electorate today, a large number of us may be poor, may be deprived of a lot of things, but everybody is fully aware of their right to vote. And that is the only right some people believe, and rightly so, that they have. And I believe it was Mahatma Gandhi who said that one should be very scared of a person who has nothing. So these people only have the right to vote. And if you take that away, I don't know. I'm quite apprehensive on this count, and I worry about it, but I don't know what to do. I mean, we are doing what we can, but it doesn't seem to have the impact that we thought it might have, but we'll keep at it.
The Election Commission says that this exercise has to be seen in the light of all the questions that have been raised in recent months about the integrity of the electoral roll.
Yeah.
And that is what actually made this kind of an exercise necessary.
Well, I know they say that, but they could have started this earlier. They could have started it soon after the 2024 Lok Sabha election. They could have started it in January. I mean, when they did the summary revision. But this is too close. You see, you can do a right thing, but you can do it in a wrong way. I don't know, this perhaps is an inappropriate example. The US decided to re-establish democracy in Iraq. But re-establishing democracy is a very good thing, in my opinion at least. But to establish democracy by killing, lakhs and lakhs of people and bombarding the country and flattening out the infrastructure and then saying, now we will introduce democracy, that's not right. So there is a correlation between ends and means. Your ends may be very good, but your means are wrong, then I don't know. We are this is a totally different issue. We are increasing our GDP, but our GDP per capita is going down. 8, 10, 12, 20, 200 people in the country will become very rich. Very good, and our GDP will go down, go up. But what would happen to the 80% of the people, or more than 50% who cannot buy food, who are given free rations? So you have to do the right thing the right way. It's difficult to do that, but that's what should be attempted.
In the end, I want to ask you, what does this exercise mean for the image of the Election Commission? I mean, whose impartiality and whose credibility has, already been questioned so much. So
Well,
what does this
this
exercise
is,
mean for that?
I think it is just another event in a series of events that has brought down the prestige of the Election Commission, and it is very sad. We have worked with the Election Commission for 25 years, and we have seen it being one of the most respected institutions in the country. And today people joke about it, which is sad, and it is sad. It is sad because Election Commission is the source of democracy. If the elections are not free and fair, and there is also something called, that justice has not only needs to be done, it needs to be seen to be done. Even if Election Commission is fair, it has to be seen to be fair. And the previous Chief Election Commissioner used to be very fond of saying that we have only 3 principles in working: disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. I have heard him say this about 6 times on television. But where is the disclosure? The Bihar Chief Electoral Officer puts out an ad, in full page ad, which costs money. It's my money and your money. And then the next day, the Election Commission of India puts out a press note saying there is no change, documents have to be given. Where are we? What will it do to the prestige of the Election Commission? Obviously not good. The Election Commission has a lot of, and trust. As the cliche goes, trust cannot be demanded, it is to be commanded by your actions, by your behavior, which sadly is lacking.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your views on the
Thank you very
Bihar
much.
SIR with Frontline. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.